Hey guys! Today is going to be my very first review on this channel, which is extremely exciting for me. And the honour of first review goes, of course, it couldn't have been anything else but Heir by Sarah J. Maas. Okay, it's no surprise by now that I am absolutely in love with the Throne of Glass series. Heir is the third book in the series, and I have been going out of my mind waiting for it to arrive. So when it finally did, I tore through the book in like 2 days, and my life is hollow and empty now that I've finished it. I'm going to try and keep it hopefully as spoiler-free as possible, but I cannot make any promises because it's likely I'll go off on a tangent and give something away. So just sort of be a little bit cautious when watching this review if you've not read the book yet. Sorry. What I found with Heir was that it was completely different from the first two books in the series in that it focused a lot more on the whole world of the series as opposed to just sort of what was happening with Selena and in Adalyn. The book is split into three sort of different perspectives. You have Selena in Wendelin, I think she's in Wendelin, doing her thing. You have Chaol and Dorian, focusing more on Chaol, but a little bit of Dorian thrown in there, which I'm quite happy about. In Adalyn, sort of dealing with all those things there. And then the perspective of a new character who is amazing, and I'll talk about a little bit later, doing sort of something over here. So it sort of really focuses a lot on the world, and by doing that, I think it's really been set up so that you see kind of how all these different places and all these different characters are going to come into play in the rest of the series as it unfolds, which makes you really, it made me really excited to see what she was going to do with these characters and what she was going to do with these places and how all of this is going to work together. And I'm going insane already just thinking about the next book, and I need it in my little hands like now. Of course, there were a lot of new characters introduced. The three main ones were, I'm just going to break it down, Rowan Whitethorn, who is the Fae Prince tasked with helping Selena deal with and learn how to control her Fae side and her Fae magic. And understandably, she's absolutely terrified out of her mind about touching her magic. And Rowan is, I fell in love with him. When he first shows up, I think his like serious and brooding just general behavior could have given Throne of Glass Chaol a run for his money. And it's really fascinating to see the way that his character unfolds and to learn about his past and what he's been through, because he is one of the immortal? I think they're immortal Fae warriors, and he's been through so much, and he's kind of just like not bothered with Selena at all in the beginning, and then to sort of see their friendship and see their relationship grow and just develop into something completely amazing. What I absolutely loved about their interaction is that there was nothing romantic about it at all. It was a completely, I mean, it took a while for them to even get to the stage of calling each other friends, and then it was just a completely platonic friendship. And I loved that the focus in this book was so much on friendship that there was a little bit of romance thrown in there. I'm not going to say with who, but there was a little bit of romance thrown in, but it was a complete focus on friendship. I found it was Selena and Rowan and Selena and some of the others that she meets. It was sort of exploring the difficult friendship between Chaol and Dorian, now that Dorian is mad at Chaol for getting Selena sent away, and sort of Chaol not wanting to share why he did that. And also sort of a new friendship between Chaol and in the new character introduced Edian Ashriver, who is Selena's cousin and who broke my heart in so many ways. And again, another completely wonderfully well written character. When he arrives, you sort of think he's just this one-dimensional obligatory jackass character who is just there to be a cocky asshole and serves no other purpose really, but she has so many layers within himself, and he has so much pain and heartache, and I love him. I love him, I love him, I love him because he is such a complex character, and because when you first see him and you think he's completely one-dimensional and you're gonna hate him forever, and then things happen, you learn about him, and your entire perspective is changed. My favourite new character is Manon Blackbeak, who is one of the Iron Teeth witches and heir to the Blackbeak clan. And so the witches have been sort of entrusted by the King of Adalin to train and fly these wyverns. They're basically dragon creatures. So the witches are promised the wyverns once they help the King of Adalin so they can take their dragons and go and take their homeland back. I love the way that the witches are written because they are fierce, they are badass, they are completely heartless and just unforgiving. They are brutal and violent, and I absolutely love it. There are 3 different clans who are sort of gathered. The Blackbeak, the Blue Bloods, and the Yellow Legs. And obviously being brutal, violent witch clans, there's a lot of infighting. But what I adored about Manon was that she is the heir and obviously expected to be the leader. And she's given really the only glimpses of humanity that we see in those kinds of witches. She sort of bonds with her dragon sort of against all odds. And towards the end of the book, there is a prisoner that they have, and she's sort of told to kill her. And the prisoner just basically says, we feel sorry for you because you're, like, none of you are born heartless, and we feel sorry for you because that's how you're raised and that's what you become and you'll never know anything else. And Manon really sort of takes that and really thinks about it. And I think with any other witch, like, they wouldn't have cared, but because she has had that bond with her dragon and because she's had sort of a little more of a bond with the blue blood, like, witch heir, and it sort of shows, I think it really opens up something extremely interesting to be explored in the rest of this series, and I am unbelievably excited to see where her character is taken, because I really hope that her character keeps sort of her brutality, but also maybe finds a happy medium with brutality with a little bit of emotion. Not completely heartless, but still, you know, enough to rip a man's throat out before he can scream. Because that was amazing! Of course, with the addition of the new characters, we can't forget about the old ones. So, back at Adalin, Kale and Dorian are still sort of doing their thing. Dorian, they've really drifted apart, which is very sad, but I think it was really necessary for the story to see the way that they both kind of grow. Dorian especially, I found, I've always loved Dorian. Dorian's always been my number one. He went through an incredible sort of growth. I think I've always found him to be super good, like unwaveringly good, with the purest heart of ever, and like his desire to change the way his father has ruled sort of just always got to me, because I found that, like, he is the king that Adalin needs, and I genuinely hope, like, in the rest of the series it's him on the throne, him and Selena sort of taking over everything, but maybe that's wishful thinking. So Dorian, I think, doesn't so much grow as he just evolves into a better version of an already good man. He's faced with challenges, obviously having magic and having to hide that from his father, wanting to leave but knowing that he can't, because if the kingdom falls into his brother's hands, it'll be just as bad, nothing will get better. So he stays through obligation to his people, and I admire him such a great amount, because he could leave, he could go at any time, but he doesn't. He chooses to stay because he wants to make things better. And I can't talk enough about how great I find Dorian. Kale, on the other hand, in this book, I was a little bit disillusioned with. I I mean, I always had a very hard time picking between Dorian and Kale as which one I liked better, but in this book it's abundantly clear that Dorian, for the most part, is the better man. Kale is really shown as this indecisive, I don't want to say coward, but coward. He comes off as a coward because he refuses to pick a side. He helps Edion, who obviously his main goal being Celena's cousin is to obviously get her back and get her on their throne. So they're doing all that kind of stuff on the sly, but Kale just refuses to really commit. And I did find that he was cowardly, and Dorian calls him out on it, and he just basically goes, "You're afraid of change, and I hope that you make the right choice in the future, or like when the time comes, I hope you're finally ready to commit to a side." And I feel like his character definitely took a back seat to everyone else because of that cowardly, sort of indecisive attitude that he had. And understandably, he's got a lot to lose, but so does everybody. So especially Dorian, and Dorian is just committed 100% to Selena. He's committed to change, and I think it frustrates him a lot that Kale refuses to do that. Selena, on the other hand, never really disappointed me at all. Before she can get anything done, she's got to come to terms with and sort of accept her face side and her heritage and her past, and so it's shown as her just going through a whole bunch of negative emotions, dealing with her past, dealing with her loss, dealing with all the guilt, and she's really just sunk into this dark, deep pit, which I really enjoyed. I think it showed such a human side of her. It's really easy to kind of overlook the fact that she is she's a human girl, or half human girl, who's lost a lot. She's lost her family, her friends, her love twice. She lost her loves twice, and she's lost everything, and she keeps going. And this book is the point where she just gives up. She's gone for so long, and she's just kept losing things, so she's just given up. And then, so the book, this book is her journey from, and with a lot of help from Rowan. And what I loved about their friendship is that I feel like they are each the person that the other needs at that point. Like, Rowan needs somebody, Selena needs somebody, and they're both strong enough, and they've both been through enough that I think they could only have been that person for each other. And so they find that friendship, and it's such a treasure. It's such a good thing that I'm so glad it was included. So she's kind of just shown going through that journey, like going through the negative energy, with sort of powering through that as best she can, and getting slowly stronger and stronger and stronger. And it's an amazing thing to watch happen. Like, sort of, as you're reading it, you can see how she's changing. You can see sort of how she's growing as a person. And it's like, I am a sucker for character development. I will read anything that is just a good character-driven story where the character goes through something. And that's why I love this series so much, is that these characters are so well written, and then they just keep getting better and still maintain the original identity that you fall so in love with. This book as a whole was great. It introduces new characters, it expands on the old characters, it goes through the whole world of the series, it introduces a lot of new creatures, the Weavers, dragons. It has a whole bunch of dark creatures. It really is the perfect middle for a series, because it just answers a lot of questions, and it also builds up the events of the next books. It really kind of just makes you excited. I was excited the whole time I was reading the book. I was excited for the next one because it was so well written and so exciting. just to see where it would be taken and who would be doing what kind of creatures were going to come out, were they going to be on this side or this side, and it was just kind of like, oh, it was an adventure, and I absolutely loved this book. This review was not supposed to be that long, I promise. With future reviews probably won't be this long. I just had so many things to talk about because I can't say enough good things about this book. I don't really think that I have anything negative at all to say. I am obsessed with Sarah J. Maas. I am obsessed with the Throne of Glass series, and I am excited as hell to see what comes next. For what this series is and for where I hope and think that this series is going, it was an absolutely perfect middle book. So definitely, if you've not read the series, pick it up. If you have read the series but you haven't read Heir of Fire yet, get to it as soon as you can. Please, if you've read it already, leave comments discussing this because I need to talk about this forever. But yeah, so that is it for this review, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!